Did you know that across America there are fruits you legally can't plant in your backyard? It's not just about what will grow in your climate. Some fruits are actually banned by law. From deadly toxins to agricultural threats, these forbidden fruits have fascinating stories behind their restrictions. Let's explore 20 illegal fruits that you won't find in legitimate American gardens and why authorities don't want them growing on your property. Ackee. The ackee fruit looks innocent enough with its bright red pods that open to reveal glossy black seeds nestled in creamy yellow flesh. Native to West Africa, but famous in Jamaican cuisine, this fruit is completely banned by the FDA across all 50 states. The reason? When unripe, ackee contains hypoglycin, a powerful toxin that can cause Jamaican vomiting sickness, a condition that begins with severe nausea but can quickly progress to seizures, coma, and even death. What makes ackee particularly dangerous is its deceptive nature. The unripe fruit shows no visible signs of its toxicity, and even experienced gardeners can't always tell when it's safe. In America, the FDA determined the risk was simply too great for the general public, making it illegal to grow, import, or sell fresh ackee nationwide. Black currants. These small tart berries were once a staple in American gardens, prized for their distinctive flavor in jams, jellies, and the famous crème de cassis liqueur. But in the early 1900s, black currants became the target of one of America's first federal bans on growing a food crop. The reason? These innocent-looking berries can host white pine blister rust, a devastating fungal disease that threatened America's white pine lumber industry, a critical resource for building homes across the expanding nation. The federal government launched an aggressive eradication program, and growing black currants became illegal in many states, particularly across the Northeast and Northwest, where white pines were economically vital. Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and other states still maintain these bans today, though some have begun to relax restrictions as disease-resistant varieties have been developed. Miracle fruit. This small red berry from West Africa isn't toxic or invasive, but it possesses a property so unusual that the FDA restricted its commercial use. When you eat miracle fruit, a protein called miraculin binds to your taste buds, causing sour foods to taste intensely sweet for up to an hour afterward. Bite into a lemon after eating miracle fruit, and it tastes like sweet lemonade. No sugar needed. While growing miracle fruit for personal use isn't explicitly illegal nationwide, the FDA has restricted its use in commercial food products. Why? Officials worried this taste-altering fruit could be used to mask spoiled food or disguise inferior products. There were also concerns about potential pharmaceutical interactions, since the fruit essentially tricks your sensory perception. In states with strict agricultural import laws like California, even obtaining the plants or seeds can be challenging. Barbados Cherry. Also known as acerola, this bright red cherry-like fruit packs more vitamin C than almost any other fruit, up to 65 times more than an orange. Despite its impressive nutritional profile, the Barbados cherry faces strict growing restrictions in Texas border regions and Arizona. The reason has nothing to do with the fruit itself, but rather what might be hiding inside it. Agricultural authorities fear the Barbados cherry could harbor the Mexican fruit fly, a devastating pest that could cause millions in damage to domestic fruit industries if introduced. The flies lay eggs inside the developing fruit, making detection nearly impossible without cutting each one open. While you can find Barbados cherry supplements and frozen pulp in health food stores, growing the actual trees is prohibited in these vulnerable border regions, with violations resulting in hefty fines and mandatory destruction of the plants. Callery Pear. The Callery Pear tree, with its beautiful white spring blossoms and small brown fruits, was once promoted by the USDA as the perfect ornamental tree for American yards. Fast-growing and resistant to nearly everything, it seemed ideal until it became an ecological nightmare. The trees escaped cultivation, with birds spreading their small fruits across the landscape. Now, states including Ohio, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina have banned this tree entirely. What makes this ban particularly interesting is that it represents a complete reversal of government policy. The same agricultural departments that once distributed these trees for free are now spending millions to eradicate them. The small fruits, while not particularly tasty to humans, are readily eaten by birds who spread the seeds far and wide, forming impenetrable thorny thickets that crowd out native plants and damage infrastructure. Autumn olive. Don't let the name fool you. Autumn olive isn't related to actual olives. This invasive shrub produces abundant small red berries that taste surprisingly good, with a sweet tart flavor reminiscent of cranberries but with notes of pomegranate. Rich in lycopene and other antioxidants, these berries are nutritional powerhouses. But you won't be growing them legally in Connecticut, Wisconsin, Virginia, or many other eastern states. Autumn olive was originally introduced from Asia for wildlife habitat and erosion control, but it quickly became one of America's most problematic invasive plants. Each plant can produce up to 200,000 berries annually, which are eagerly consumed by birds and spread across the landscape. The plants can fix nitrogen in the soil, allowing them to thrive in poor conditions where native plants struggle, transforming entire ecosystems and altering soil chemistry. Himalayan Blackberry. These blackberries produce some of the largest, juiciest berries you'll ever taste, far bigger than their native counterparts. But in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, growing these particular blackberries is strictly prohibited. Unlike our native blackberry species, the Himalayan variety, which actually originated in Armenia, not the Himalayas, grows with such vigor that it creates impenetrable thickets up to 15 feet tall. These blackberry jungles have literally swallowed abandoned properties in parts of the Pacific Northwest, with canes as thick as a person's wrist and thorns capable of puncturing tractor tires. The berries themselves are delicious, which is part of the problem. Birds eat them and spread the seeds everywhere. The plants can grow up to 20 feet in a single season and reproduce both by seed and by tip rooting, making them nearly impossible to eradicate once established. Paddy Melon. This small, striped melon looks like a miniature watermelon, about the size of a golf ball, and is related to both watermelons and cucumbers. But don't let its cute appearance fool you. The paddy melon, also called bitter apple, contains compounds so toxic they can kill livestock that consume them. This fruit is banned in western states including Nevada and Arizona, where it poses a serious threat to the ranching industry. Originally from Africa, paddy melons escaped cultivation and now grow wild in many arid regions. The fruits contain cucurbitacins, intensely bitter compounds that can cause severe gastrointestinal distress in humans and can be fatal to sheep and cattle. What makes them particularly dangerous is that during drought, when other vegetation withers, paddy melons continue to thrive, becoming some of the only green plants available to hungry livestock. Russian olive. Despite its name, Russian olive isn't an olive at all, but rather a shrub or small tree that produces small, silver-colored fruits. These fruits, while edible, are mealy and not particularly tasty to humans, though birds love them. Once promoted for windbreaks and wildlife habitat, Russian olive is now banned in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and other western states where water is precious. The problem with Russian olive is its extraordinary thirst. These trees consume up to 3 times more water than native plants, and they've invaded river systems throughout the West, lowering water tables and drying up streams. In drought-prone regions, this water consumption has serious consequences for both agriculture and natural ecosystems. The silvery fruits are spread by birds, allowing Russian olive to colonize new areas rapidly, while also producing chemicals that inhibit the growth of competing vegetation. Multiflora Rose. With its clusters of small white flowers and bright red rose hips, which are technically fruits, Multiflora Rose might seem like a lovely addition to your garden. But this Asian import is now banned in Iowa, Missouri, Pennsylvania, and many other states. What makes this case particularly interesting is that Multiflora Rose was once actively promoted by the federal government as a living fence for livestock and for erosion control along highways. The small red rose hips contain seeds that remain viable for up to 20 years in the soil. Birds eat these fruits and spread the seeds widely, allowing Multiflora Rose to invade forests, pastures, and abandoned fields. A single plant can produce up to 500,000 seeds annually. The thorny canes form thickets so dense that they can render pasture land unusable and block access to streams and woodlands. Buckthorn. Buckthorn produces abundant clusters of small black berries that hang on the branches well into winter. While these fruits aren't particularly tasty to humans, birds eat them readily, and that's precisely the problem. Buckthorn is banned in Minnesota, Illinois, Massachusetts, and other northern states because its berries contain a powerful natural laxative that ensures seeds pass quickly through birds' digestive systems, spreading far and wide. This European import was once popular as a hedging plant, valued for its dense growth and ability to thrive in various conditions. However, buckthorn has become one of the most damaging invasive plants in northern forests. It leafs out earlier and stays green later than native species, giving it a competitive advantage. The plants also release chemicals into the soil that inhibit the growth of other species, creating monocultures where nothing else can grow. Durian. Known as the king of fruits in Southeast Asia, durian is famous for its custard-like flesh with complex flavors that devotees describe as heavenly. It's also infamous for its overwhelming odor, often compared to rotting onions, sewage, or gas leaks. While there is no federal ban on growing durian, numerous municipal codes in apartment buildings across New York, Texas, and Nevada prohibit even possessing the fruit, let alone growing it. The smell of durian is so potent that it has triggered gas leak evacuations and can penetrate concrete walls. In Singapore, durian is banned on public transportation, and many hotels prohibit guests from bringing it inside. In the United States, certain varieties are restricted due to both their odor and invasive potential in tropical regions like Hawaii. While you might technically be able to grow durian in a private greenhouse in some areas, neighbors would likely report any attempt long before it produced fruit. Barberry. The common barberry produces bright red berries that hang in clusters from thorny branches, creating an attractive ornamental shrub that was once popular in American gardens. Today, this European import is banned in Michigan, Montana, New Hampshire, and other states because its berries help spread a fungus that can destroy wheat crops. Barberry serves as an alternate host for wheat stem rust, a devastating fungal disease that can reduce wheat yields by up to 70%. In the early 20th century, when America's wheat production was crucial for both domestic food security and international exports, the federal government launched an aggressive campaign to eradicate barberry. While Japanese barberry, a different species, is still sold as an ornamental in some areas, the common barberry with its tart red fruits remains prohibited in many agricultural states. The berries, while edible and high in vitamin C, were once valued for preserves and medicinal purposes. Trifoliate Orange. Also called hardy orange, this unusual citrus relative produces small, fuzzy fruits that resemble miniature oranges. While technically edible, they're extremely sour and seedy, used primarily for marmalades or as a flavoring. Despite being cold hardy enough to grow in northern states, Trifoliate Orange is banned in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and other southern states where citrus is commercially important. The reason for the ban is that Trifoliate Orange can harbor citrus canker and other diseases that threaten commercial citrus production. While the plant itself is resistant to many of these diseases, it can serve as a symptomless carrier, potentially spreading infection to vulnerable commercial crops. The small fruits contain numerous seeds that can be spread by wildlife, allowing the plant to escape cultivation. The trees are also incredibly thorny, with 3-inch spines that can puncture tractor tires and make infested areas nearly impassable. Amur Honeysuckle. With its fragrant flowers and bright red berries, Amur Honeysuckle might seem like an attractive garden addition. But this Asian shrub is now banned in Wisconsin, Ohio, Vermont, and other states because its fruits spread a plant that has become an ecological disaster. Unlike native honeysuckles, which typically produce few berries, Amur honeysuckle creates abundant fruits that birds eagerly consume and spread. What makes this plant particularly problematic is that its berries contain compounds that actually inhibit the growth of native tree seedlings, creating dead zones in forests where nothing else can grow. The shrubs leaf out earlier than native species and retain their leaves later in the fall, giving them a competitive advantage. They form dense thickets that can completely transform forest understories, reducing biodiversity and altering habitat for wildlife. While the small red berries are not toxic to birds, they lack the nutritional value of native fruits. Chinaberry. The Chinaberry tree produces clusters of small yellowish fruits that hang on the branches well into winter, creating an ornamental effect that once made it popular in southern gardens. But this Asian import is now banned in Texas, New Mexico, Louisiana, and other states because its fruits are deceptively dangerous. They're fatally toxic to humans and livestock, but have a sweet taste that can tempt children to eat them. All parts of the Chinaberry contain toxins, but the fruits are particularly problematic because they resemble small berries and have an initially sweet flavor. Ingesting just a few can cause vomiting, seizures, and potentially death, especially in small children. Beyond their toxicity, the fruits are readily spread by birds, allowing Chinaberry to invade natural areas. The trees also produce chemicals that inhibit the growth of other plants, creating barren areas beneath their canopy. Beech apple / Manchineel. Sometimes called the death apple, the Manchineel produces small fruits that resemble green apples but contain some of the most potent plant toxins known to science. This tree is banned in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, where it naturally occurs in coastal areas. The Spanish called it the little apple of death, and with good reason. Even standing under the tree during rain can cause skin blistering as toxins wash down from the leaves. The Manchineel is so dangerous that in areas where it grows naturally, authorities often mark the trees with red paint or warning signs. Even burning the wood is hazardous, as the smoke can cause blindness. What makes this fruit particularly dangerous is its resemblance to familiar apples or crab apples, potentially fooling unsuspecting people into taking a bite. The toxins act quickly, causing throat swelling, severe gastrointestinal distress, and potentially fatal internal bleeding. Privet. Privet hedges were once a symbol of suburban prosperity, with their neat appearance and clusters of small blackberries that appear after the fragrant white flowers fade. Today, however, privet is banned in Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and other states because those innocent-looking berries have helped it become one of the most destructive invasive plants in southern forests. Birds eagerly consume privet berries and spread the seeds across the landscape. Once established, privet forms dense thickets that shade out native vegetation, reducing plant diversity by up to 90% in affected areas. Studies have shown that forests invaded by privet support up to 80% fewer native bird species, as the insects that birds depend on cannot survive on these non-native plants. Privet has invaded over 1 million acres of southern forests, with control efforts costing millions annually. The berries themselves, while not highly toxic, can cause gastrointestinal distress if consumed in quantity. Carambola / Starfruit. With its unique star-shaped cross-section and sweet tart flavor, starfruit seems like a harmless tropical treat. But certain varieties of this fruit are restricted in Texas and Arizona due to a little-known danger. They contain neurotoxins that can be deadly for people with kidney disease. For healthy individuals, these compounds are processed and eliminated by the kidneys, but for those with impaired kidney function, they can build up to dangerous levels. The neurotoxin in starfruit, called caramboxin, can cause hiccups, confusion, seizures, and even death in vulnerable individuals. What makes this particularly dangerous is that many people with early-stage kidney disease may not yet know they have the condition. While growing starfruit isn't completely banned nationwide, certain varieties with higher toxin levels face restrictions in states with large populations of renal patients. Additionally, in areas where citrus is commercially important, starfruit faces agricultural restrictions because it can harbor citrus greening disease. Jujube. Also known as Chinese dates, jujubes produce small apple-like fruits that turn from green to red to dark brown as they ripen and dry on the tree. Fresh, they have an apple-like crunch. Dried, they develop a chewy texture and sweet, date-like flavor. Despite their delicious taste and impressive nutritional profile, certain varieties of jujube face restrictions in New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. The reason has nothing to do with the jujube itself, but rather what might be hiding inside it. These fruits can harbor pests that threaten the domestic date industry, a $100 million business centered in the American Southwest. The date palm scale and other insects can infest jujube trees, then spread to commercial date palms, potentially causing significant economic damage. While some approved varieties of jujube can be grown in these states, others face strict prohibition, with agricultural inspectors authorized to remove unauthorized trees. This selective restriction demonstrates how agricultural protections often target specific varieties rather than entire species, creating a complex regulatory landscape for home gardeners to navigate. These forbidden fruits remind us that gardening isn't just about what will grow. It's also about what should grow. Have you ever encountered any of these illegal fruits growing wild or in an old garden? If you found this exploration of America's forbidden fruits interesting, be sure to subscribe for more videos that uncover the hidden stories behind the plants that shape our world. Have a great day.